Good evening and welcome everybody to our live stream session. Today we'll be looking at the technical requirements for online exams, and this is actually the 9th of 10 live streams that we have planned to basically unveil the 2021 prospectus as well as the academic changes that will be taking place effective April this year to March 2022. Now, if you've missed any of those previous sessions, luckily for you, all of them were recorded and you can stream them from YouTube, our YouTube channel. The links to those particular streams are also available on the knowledge base, which is on our website. Now, Gareth, my co-host, will take you through the topics that we've already looked at in those past sessions. Gareth?
Okay, good evening, Mandisa, and to all the people watching us. It's always a treat to be here. So yes, in terms of what we have already covered, we've looked at the 2021-22 academic year prospectus. We've looked at the 2021-22 portfolio and what is new. We've looked at how to complete the POE, how to book and postpone exams, how to upload your assignment. We've looked at paper versus online exam bookings, what is new for RTAP and RPL students, and where to find your results.
Thank you so much, Gareth. So in terms of today's topic, we've broken it down into little segments. So first off, we'll look at the software requirements, we'll look at the physical equipment requirements, the technical requirements, troubleshooting permissions, accessing your online exams, we'll look at the pre-exam and post-exam checklist, as well as the post-exam survey. So in terms of, yes, sorry, Gareth.
I was going to say, looking at that list, do we need to get dinner and get ready to sit here?
No, it's going to be a lot. Don't worry at all. All right, so first things first, in terms of the software that you require, nothing special, as I've been mentioning during our past sessions, that a lot of learners have anxiety and are worried about what's required, what software do I need to have. You just need to have Chrome installed on your PC and make sure that it is set as your default browser. So that you don't make any mistakes and enter Mackie via Internet Explorer or Mozilla Firefox when you're rushing through your exams. So just make sure that it's set as a default browser even prior to your exam. It is a requirement for you to use Chrome even for your assignments, and hence ideally it should be set as a default browser. Now please remember once again that failure to use Chrome as the default browser means that you actually won't be able to complete some of the questions during your exam and also during your test and assignments, which form part of your POE. So that is a requirement. Please do not make use of any other browser except for the latest version of Chrome. All right, so that is the software that's required. In terms of the physical requirements, the online exams can only be completed using a desktop computer or a laptop. And your machine must have a functional camera. This can be built in or external. And I will expand on the camera requirement quite shortly. But basically, when we say external, we don't mean your handheld camera like your Canon. We mean your web camera that you actually place on your PC and is linked to your PC. So it functions like a built-in web camera, but it's just placed outside of your PC. The use of a non-scientific calculator is also permissible. However, cell phones and tablet devices cannot be used for the exams. And then lastly, in terms of physical equipment, you cannot make use of headphones, earphones, AirPods, or anything like that during the online exams.
Mandisa, just a quick question on the laptop and desktop. I mean, I know you've obviously specified that there are those, and that and excuse me, there must be Chrome. Is there a particular brand of laptop or anything that we need to use, or does it not matter?
No, Garrett, it doesn't really matter. That actually speaks to our next slides, which pretty much gives you an even more more in-depth look at what exactly is required on that PC or desktop PC. So as long as you meet these technical specs that we'll be going through now, you should be fine regardless of the brand. You could be on an Apple product, or you could be on, I don't know, a Dell, HP, or whatever other products that you make use of. So in terms of the camera, it must have a resolution of 1280 by 720. And that's basically 0.9 megapixel. So it's actually just under 1 megapixel, which is not high. And that's perfectly fine. So you don't need like high megapixels, like an 8MP, like your camera that you use to take selfies in order for you to participate in the exams. A 120 by 1280 by 720 resolution will do just fine. But this is an absolute minimum, so you cannot really go under that. The camera must be left on for the duration of the exam, and I'll show you where you need to go basically to allow the permission for us to actually view or have access to your camera. In terms of the resolution for the camera, with most laptops, they will have different options for the resolution, so you can actually select which one. And I think that's quite important. And even before the exam, you actually go and check your camera resolution. I know for my laptop, if I just open the camera app and I go to settings, I get a drop down of the various photo resolutions, and you just need to make sure that it's set on 1280 by 720 in order for us to get a clear access to or clear view of your camera. Now, the other thing that's quite important is that when you must not have your camera, the default camera application on your computer open, because you can only have one camera app or one app using the camera. For instance, if you log on to, if you open your default camera and then you open Zoom, Zoom will not have access to your camera because you already have another application that is making use of the camera. I hope that makes sense. So make sure that you have closed all of the applications in your PC that have the camera open so that we, or rather Mackie, can have access to your camera application. Now, without full and clear access to your camera, unfortunately, we won't be able to digitally invigilate your exams, because that's exactly what the camera is for. It forms part of the proctoring tool, and we basically use that to invigilate your online exam in place of a person that invigilates your exams during a paper exam, for instance. So without all of that, we can't invigilate, and we certainly won't be able to verify your identity. And unfortunately, that will be a cause for an immediate disqualification of your exam. Hence, it's super important that you ensure that we have access to your camera.
Mandisa, just to add to that, you know, one of the requirements for the online exam is that you should not be running any other programs. So Zoom should be not only closed but logged out.
Absolutely.
Skype, same, absolutely everything. Because in addition to the camera, there is a monitoring tool as part of the proctoring program, and it looks to see what other programs are open and functioning during the exam, and that can raise an irregularity as well.
Absolutely, Gareth. I mean, learners certainly cannot open any other applications. And just like we said during the last session, is that you cannot open another tab in your Chrome browser as well. So you cannot do any of those things. So that takes care of the camera requirements. And then in terms of the operating system on your machine, for Windows, you must be on Windows 7 or 10. And if you are on an Apple PC, like a MacBook or an iMac, you must be on the Mac OS X Sierra OS. And then in terms of the internet connection, I mean, it goes without saying that you must have a stable internet connection. All right. Now, please also just make sure that you have Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Excel, as well as a PDF viewer installed on your PC. I mean, this may or may not be required for online exams and assignments, but it's just important for you to have it just in case you have that one exam that needs you to have a PDF viewer because there's an additional, I don't know, text table or something along those lines. So that is just a safe to have. Okay, and that takes care of the technical specifications. Once again, like I've already mentioned, it's not quite hectic. Most of the devices will be able to meet those technical specifications. But before you book your online exam, please ensure that you do meet those. Otherwise, you will actually forfeit your exam if suddenly you've booked your exam and then now you don't meet those tech requirements. So my advice is when you're busy completing your POE, before you even get to the exams, just make sure that you troubleshoot the permissions for your camera as well as your microphone. Now, how you do this is once you're on Mackie, on the URL bar, you'll see a small lock sign. Now, if you click on it, a drop-down menu will appear, and then you will select Site Settings. Now, selecting that will automatically open the window with permission settings, and that's the quickest and easiest way to get to those permissions. Now, once you're on permission settings, you will navigate to the camera and select Allow from the drop-down menu and do the same for the microphone. So it's as simple as that. Just go onto your Mackie platform and click on the lock sign, and it will take you straight through the permissions. Okay. Now, in order for you to gain access to the exams, the online exams that is, you must have completed the portfolio. So if you haven't completed your portfolio, unfortunately, you will not have access to the online exam. And that's really just to protect you, to make sure that all of your work is taken into consideration, because the POE forms 30% of your final mark, and then obviously the exam forms 70% of your final mark. So pretty important that you take both of them seriously and that you complete your POE work.
Yeah.
All right.
A note on the POE.
Yeah.
You know, with the online exams, obviously the questions come in a particular format, and the POE actually prepares the students for those types of questions. So there are practice questions at the very beginning of the POE. The online assignments and tests, again, are the same types of questions that students can expect to find in the online exam. So everything is preparing students to be able to sit these exams.
Absolutely. And I think that's actually quite awesome, because then you get to practice all of the questions before the exam. So you already get a picture of what the exam structure will be like. And I'm pretty sure that will help put you at ease before your exam, especially since the online exams are something new. So you're already getting pre-exposed to the exam structure through the practice questions activity. Okay, the other restriction is that the summative or the online exam will only be available to you on the date and time of the exam. So you will not be able to have access to your online exam before the date and time of the exams. And remember that the exams start at 1 p.m. and not at 9 a.m. like your paper exam. So if you go there at 9 a.m. and you can't find the access to the exam, don't be surprised. The online exams start at 1 p.m. and finish at 16:30. And obviously, if let's say you've already navigated to the summative page, because remember there is a summative section there. So if you've already navigated to the summative section before 1 p.m., you just need to make sure that you refresh at 1 p.m. so that that page that you see right now on the screen will show you where to start the exam. Okay. All right. So this section of the POE, which is the summative section, is only available to the students that are booked for online exams. So if you book for a paper exam, this section will not be available to you. There are also 2 other activities that are available to learners that are booked for online exams, and that's basically the pre-exam checks as well as the final exam checks. And those are also 2 additional activities that are there to actually prep the learner for the exam. So we've given as much assistance as we can give you for an online exam. And then in terms of late coming, so in the system will allow you to log in anytime between 1 and 1:30. However, after 1:30, students will not be able to log into the exam because that's considered as late coming. So the administrator will suspend your exam and you will not be able to enter the exam. So please make sure that you are logged in on time, and you also don't want to lose out on your time because it is a timed exam. You only have 3.5 hours and that includes reading time. So you certainly don't want to be logging on 30 minutes later to that exam because you're going to lose out on time and possibly lose out on marks.
Mandisa, yes, what happens if I miss that cutoff? If it gets to 1:30 and I still have not logged in, and then obviously my access is barred, how is that recorded?
You will be recorded as absent from the exam, and that will be treated just like a exam. You're recorded as absent, and you need to rebook for that exam.
Okay.
Yeah. But luckily for you, these days you have 1 POE that you can retain for the entire academic year. So you won't have to go and redo the POE. You'll just pay the rebooking fee, and then you can use the very same POE that you had used and use that time that you have used to complete the POE to actually study and make sure that the next time you show up or log in on time to your exam. But hopefully nobody actually experiences this. I think once you've paid for something, it's quite important that you make use of it. We certainly do not want to take your monies for rebookings and re-entries. So please make sure that you log in on time and not lose out on what you have paid for. Okay, so that covers the late coming. And then I think next up we have the exam submission. So once again, we briefly covered this during our online versus paper exam booking session that we did about last week, if I'm not mistaken. So what we said was that the system will automatically close all exams at 16:30 or after 3.5 hours. So if, for instance, you haven't gotten the opportunity to click on the submit button, the system will automatically close and submit that exam on your behalf. Please do not worry or stress about that. But as I mentioned once again during last week, that you sort of want to make sure that you give yourself enough time to properly go through your work and make sure that everything is correct. So instead of waiting for the system to force submit, give yourself enough time to actually make sure that your work is done properly, and then you can click on submit. Now,
just in terms of answering the questions while we're here.
Yep.
From an exam content point of view, do I need to answer those questions in the order that they appear, or can I move around and answer those that I'm most comfortable with first and then go back to the others that I find a little bit more difficult later?
Students will be able to navigate back and forth, just like your paper exam. So it's completely up to you how you choose to do this, but it's quite important that you make sure that you actually do go back to the pages or that you've skipped and complete those particular questions. And luckily for you, the system will actually give you a summary of what's been answered and what's not been answered, so you can actually easily identified through a grid what's been answered and what hasn't, and that's one of the perks with this online system.
Oh, excellent.
Yes. Okay, so I was saying that the exam is an activity on Mackie, and as you know, you have many activities. You have your plagiarism activity, practice questions activity, test one, assignment one. So the exam is also an activity. And if you look at the summary of the activities that you have completed after your exam, you will see that the exam activity is not checked as completed. It won't be checked up until the day of the results release. So do not worry. The system will force submit on your behalf, but there will be no tick on that particular or against that activity. Okay, but that's the only thing that won't have a tick. Everything else must have a tick. If there's no tick on any activities, it means you haven't completed them. Okay. Okay, so you obviously won't have access to the exam once the time has lapsed, regardless of whether you joined the session at 1 or 1:30. The session will end after 3.5 hours. Now, we also have a post-exam survey. It's compulsory, but you have up until midnight on the day of the exam to actually complete it. So after exam is done, you can actually take a short break and then come back to it, but it must be completed by midnight, excuse me, on the day of the exam. It will be immediately available after the exam. And I just want to clarify that this is not just you giving us feedback on, oh, do you like our exam session, our online exam session or not? It's actually an official declaration, okay? And will be used for academic purposes. So, for instance, if you have any issues, disputes, or complaints, you've had power outages, data issues, anything like that, all of those must be submitted by way of completing the survey at the end of the exam before midnight. After this period, unfortunately, we won't accept any further representations by email or any other platform, really. So the survey is for that. You will not be able to email us your queries stating that you had XYZ issues during the online exam. Please make sure that you use the survey for that. Hence, it's compulsory. And then this is just a recap, basically, of what we've covered in today's sessions as well as previous sessions. Make sure that all of your assignments and tests and all your POE activities are completed by the due date, and that assignment 3 is manual. It needs to be uploaded manually. Remember that test 1, test 2 is automatic. Sorry. It is auto-marked and it's completed online. And the new thing is that assignment 1 and assignment 2 are also now auto-marked and will be completed online. So essentially, it is only assignment 3 that you will need to manually download and upload, and that reduces manual work for you. Yes, Karen.
Mandisa, while you've just mentioned assignments 1 and 2 and tests 1 and 2, do we need to have, or do the students need to have a webcam for those?
Yes, the camera must be on at all times because the proctoring tool can take effect at any point, okay? But you will still be able to complete those activities without the camera. So for instance, if you have not been proctored and verified, then we'll obviously get in touch with you before the exam to say you haven't been verified. Please make sure that you have your camera on so that we can verify you. But you can certainly complete those activities without a camera. So it's nothing to stress about. We will be able to see who's been verified and who hasn't.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Remember that before the exam day, make sure that you test your internet connection, make sure that you have downloaded, installed Chrome and set it as your default browser, enable the webcam settings, complete your pre-exam checks on Mackie, and also check your load shedding schedule. If you have load shedding scheduled and if you are able Only if you are able to move to another location that will not be load shedding, please make sure that you do so that your exam is not affected. Because if there's load shedding, unfortunately, because the exams do run strictly from 1 p.m. to 16:30, it means that your exam will need to be postponed to the next available exam date. So you'd rather make sure that you increase your chances of being able to complete that exam without any interruptions. But we've made provisions for instances where there is an unscheduled load shedding, or you have, unscheduled power outages, etc. Those will be dealt with in accordance with the ICB exam policy and will be looked at on a case-by-case basis.
And Mandisa, we love that policy. Why? Because I wrote it, and it's 32 pages.
Yes, you wrote that policy, Gareth. Now, please make sure that you do not have any books or notes with you. This is not an open book exam, okay? So you cannot have any notes or books with you. Make sure that you complete the post-exam survey, as I just mentioned. And then in terms of your... does that actually bring us to the end of the day of the exam?
No, that's it.
Is that it? I'm getting confused.
You are done.
Okay, guys. Sorry, Gareth?
I said it's such a surprise. You get to the end and this
is rather a short session, eh? Okay, so that brings us to the end of this session, and we will just have a look at your questions now. I know that the team in the background has been answering.
Yes. Maybe before we go through the questions, if we can just go through and remind students of the sessions that we have covered.
Yes.
Of course, the first session, which looked at the prospectus, the second one, which looked at the portfolio and how that has changed. The third session was how to complete the POE, where we dealt specifically with the assignments and the tests and the requirements for those. The fourth session was how to book and postpone exams. The fifth session, which was how to upload your assignments, and there we dealt very, very specifically with assignment 3. That one, of course, is completed offline, manually, by hand, scanned, and uploaded. Then we looked at paper versus online exam booking, what's new for RTAP and RPL students, where to find your results. If I could read. Online exams and what is required. Okay, so that is 9 sessions done. 1 more to go. Shall we field some questions?
And hopefully we will see you guys on our next session, where we look at how to register on the student portal if you haven't already logged into the student portal. Okay, let's have a look at the questions. I see that you guys have already answered the majority of them. In terms of the scrap paper workings, at the moment, those will not be allowed up until such a time that ICB communicates that those will be allowed. Because as I mentioned during our past session, that we cannot see what's on that paper. Okay, hence we're still discussing with the academic board whether or not that will actually be allowed. But at the moment, it's a no-go, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay. Mandisa, we have a question here, and I think it just, although we've dealt with it, it does bear repeating. Must the student have a camera? What happens if he or she cannot afford a laptop with a camera?
If a student does not have the equipment that's required for online exams, then that learner has an option to book for a paper exam.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm just going through and having a look here. Okay. Are online exams harder than the paper-based exams?
No, not at all. They go through the same stringent process, and they assess the same outcomes. The duration is the same, the question structure is the same, format is the same, and content is the same. So it's just a matter of where the platforms at which they both take place.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think that's quite important. to maintain the integrity of the exams. That's basically one of our top priorities, to make sure that there's uniformity between the online and paper exam. So it's certainly not something that we will overlook. Yeah.
From the list of questions that have been forwarded to me, I think that is about it. There's a question here that's come through. Is there a test for the online exams? I'm not entirely sure what that refers to.
Yeah.
Mandisa, are you able to
Can you rephrase
decode
for us, please, so that we can answer it now? Can the person that posted that question post it again?
Okay, another one has come through. Is there a way for learners to see a test on how the online exams work? Okay. So in other words, is there an example somewhere?
Yes. So as we've mentioned, there is a practice questions activity on Mackie. That activity encompasses all types of questions that you get, not only for your POE, but also for your exam. So it will cover question formats for your test 1, test 2, assignment 1, assignment 2, as well as the questions that will come up during your final exam.
Okay.
So, and remember that with the practice activity, it's compulsory. So everybody needs to do it, which means that everybody will actually get to see how they need to answer those questions. But you can actually go back and redo it as many times as you like to get sufficient practice and prep you for your online exam.
Okay.
Okay.
Mandisa, I don't see any further questions there.
Yes. I also don't see any other questions.
Okay. Should we let people go and have dinner?
Yeah, I mean, I see a lot of activities. Let's just give them like a minute to post the last minute questions, and then we'll close the session. So if you have any question, please drop it on the comment section right now before we close. Because I see there's a lot of activity there. Will the assignment 1 and 2, are these open book as well as the tests? No, those are not open books. Those are actually timed, and that's why they're not open books. So you only have 1 hour to complete those. And if you open your book, you certainly won't be able to complete those. So they're timed, just like how you would do on a paper test. You know, if you're at campus and you're doing your test 1 and test 2, you will have an invigilator walking around checking that you're not having any notes on your desk. So it's the same here. And the timing is to basically ensure that it simulates the paper environment.
Yeah. I just think in terms, again, just a reminder in terms of which exams are when, students need to refer to the exam timetable where it clearly lays out which are the paper-based, when the paper-based exams are and when the online exams are, and that they alternate month on month. So 1 month you will have all the exams will be online, the next month they will be paper-based.
Yes, yes. I see one question just came through. What happens if I need a toilet break during an online exam? So we've covered that in the previous section. Once again, please make sure that you are watching all of the videos, because there's pivotal information there that you want to make sure that you're aware of. So we covered that during the session, online exams versus paper exams. And we said that the bathroom breaks must be kept at an absolute minimum, okay? Because if you take them too frequently and if they're long, that actually alerts us, and that will be identified as a red flag, which means that it will be investigated as an irregularity if you're taking too many and if you're going out for too long. So you can actually take a toilet break, but keep it to the minimum and keep it short.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just a reiteration about the use of things like calculators in the exam. Certainly you may use a basic calculator, not a scientific financial calculator or any calculator that can be programmed.
Yes. Okay, I think we've given people enough time to actually ask questions, and we do have to now close the session. Okay, thank you very much, guys. Have a lovely evening, and make sure that you check out our YouTube channel and subscribe, and also like this video if you have found it to be beneficial to you. Take care then. Goodbye.
Great. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.